representing New York in the Senate. It failed. The Kennedy clan, as used to be said of effete Chinese dynasties, has exhausted the mandate of heaven. Now that Edward Kennedy has died, the liberal establishment and its media acolytes have the onions and the handkerchiefs to orchestrate a show of grief over the loss of a great leader. As Barack Obama ludicrously termed this discredited playboy, no doubt the modernist Catholic Church in America will bury this proponent of federally funded abortion with full honors. Despite his having led a life of extravagant degeneracy, the liberal Catholic caucus of the Pelosi-Biden orientation will fervently claim him as their own. Gerald Warner continues, he says, in Britain, Kennedy will be remembered for his championing of IRA terror on the same knee-jerk anti-British principles that inspired his father, Ambassador Joseph Kennedy, to support Hitler. Yet Kennedy was awarded an honorary knighthood, just as America gave him its Presidential Medal of Freedom. What for? For being a Kennedy, of course. The Kennedy humbug was incisively deflated by a Republican bumper sticker that memorably claimed, more people were killed at Chappaquiddick than at 3 Mile Island. Another succinctly said, no one drowned at Watergate. What is it that motivates people in so-called democratic societies to create reverential myths around hollow idols with feet of clay? America is the one country on earth where only the rich are socialists. The East Coast tribe will now indulge in false hero worship and wild hyperbole about a man who, if his surname had been anything other than Kennedy, would have provoked widespread distaste and social ostracism. This time, the liberal elite is burying not just an individual, but the political aspirations of a dynasty whose objectives were incompatible with the best interests of America, so wrote Gerald Warner in the UK Telegraph. Here's what's on michaelsavage.com. Matt Towery wrote, the true Savage was released while Savage Talk host was banned. He said, where is the compassion for a man who has harmed no one? Or do you reserve your compassion for bona fide savages? He's addressing this to the British government. You got to read this article. I didn't write it. Chappaquiddick, end of one Ted Kennedy, beginning of another from the New York Daily News. Apparently they haven't forgotten Mary Jo. As James Taranto of the Wall Street Journal wrote, when Mr. Kennedy died, Mary Jo Kopechne could not be reached for comment. And, of course, that's true. Now, what if, just what if, this man's name was not Kennedy, and this had happened to him and he'd been a Republican? Do you suppose he would be lionized upon his passing? And what about the real Teddy Kennedy? Who was he? Does a man who spent his entire political life destroying the fundamental tenets of American morality become miraculously rehabilitated on his passing? I don't know. Read the article on michaelsavage.com. And while you're there, read Lockerbie Balmer praised and Savage hated. By the way, the Richardson probe was killed by Obama. Who? The decision not to pursue charges against New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson in a year-long probe of possible pay-to-play scheme was made to stop it, was made by a top Justice Department official. That's right. There's your fairness. There's a great article, Lawyers About to Smother the War on Terror. Toyota has closed its only West Coast plant. Students' take-home assignment is census kits. A Fed official says the real unemployment rate is 16%. This is unbelievable stuff. It's unbelievable. And Representative Jim Moran of Virginia demanded to see his constituents' ID before allowing a town hall question. Isn't that great? Democracy is great. And a judge has struck down a state law that required the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security to stress God from an anti-terror law. I guess it's no longer God in God we trust. It's the rats at the ACLU we trust. It's all up on michaelsavage.com. Don't miss it. Any topic is fair game here. Okay, Columbus, Ohio. Fatty, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Yeah, Michael. I haven't read your book, so forgive me if you've addressed this already, but how do you define culture, and more specifically American culture? It seems like it changes, right. I mean, pretty much every few years or so.
No, it actually doesn't. The people change, but the culture doesn't change. That's the whole... You see, this is the problem that most people are having. They think that multiculturalism should change America. It should not change America. The core values of American culture are set in stone. The people change, the racial makeup changes, but In the old days, they would assimilate to the American culture. Now, what is the American culture? I have defined this. The American culture, when I say borders, you know what that is. When I say language, you know what that means, English only. When I say culture, many of you have been hoodwinked into believing that we're a multicultural nation, which we are not. We are a nation of many races and many cultures. That is true. It has been true from the beginning. But in the past, people would come over and become Americans. Now they come over and they want you to become them. They want you to speak Spanish. They want you to act Muslim. They want you to give up going to the church and going to a mosque. This is not going to go on in this country much longer. We're going to have a revolution in this country if this keeps up. These people are pushing the wrong people around. Just watch extreme fighting and you'll see what the white male is capable of. That's all I can say to you. Just understand why extreme fighting is becoming popular in this country. Because the rage has reached a boil. If they keep pushing us around, and if we keep having these schmucks running for office, catering to the multicultural people who are destroying the culture of this country, there will be a revolution in this country. Guaranteed. The people, the white male in particular, let me talk specifically. The white male in particular, the one without connections, the one without money, has nothing to lose, and you haven't seen him yet. You haven't seen him explode in this country. And he's still the majority, by the way, in case you don't know it. He is still the majority. No one speaks for him. Everyone craps on him. People use him for cannon fodder. And he has no voice whatsoever. He has nobody speaking for him. So he goes to these extreme fighting events. Take a look at them, and you'll see what the white male is capable of. And you're going to find out that if you keep pushing this country around, you'll find out that there's an ugly side to the white male that has been suppressed for probably 30 years right now. But it really has never gone away. But that doesn't answer your question. What is the culture? It's very simple. The culture of this nation is built upon several founding documents. One, I'm sure the ACLU will find a problem with. That's called the United States Constitution. That's a founding document. The Bill of Rights, founding document. The Bible, that's correct. The Bible, the rules of the Bible. The entire nation was built around the rules of the Bible, not the rules of the psychos, not the rules of the perverts, not the rules of the atheists, not the rules of the psychos, not the rules of the perverts, not the rules of the atheists. But the Christian rules, the Christian Bible built upon the Jewish Bible. So if you want to ask me what the founding documents are, those are the founding documents, and that's the culture of America. Now, did I say that Buddhism shouldn't be practiced? No. Did I say Hinduism shouldn't or couldn't be practiced? No. Did I say that Islam shouldn't or couldn't be practiced? No. But in the past, the other religions were practiced, but they did not try to dominate the nation, which is fundamentally a Christian nation. It is not a Buddhist nation. It is not a Hindu nation. It is not a Muslim nation. This is primarily, has always been and always will be primarily a Christian nation. The rest of the people certainly are welcome to practice their religions, but they're not welcome to deny Christianity its place in the family of man. Now, I've given you a long, long story on this, but there are other documents that go back to the Magna Carta, but that would require an education beyond the 6th grade, so I'll stop using large words. I'm Michael Savage. We'll be right back.
Savage. The Wall Street Journal this morning, weekdays 5 to 6 a.m. on Talk 910 KNEW.
I don't like cutesy. I don't like people who talk to their children cutesy. It makes me squirm. Have you had these parents talk to their children with, like, cute talk? That's why the child winds up psycho. You know, I got to tell you a little trick about child rearing. In my opinion, one man's opinion, and I haven't done so bad, speak to them as you would an adult, and they will grow up more intelligent, and they will be more competent younger. You ever listen to the people with the children? I love the ones who take them to a restaurant and give them a lesson in front of you to show how smart they are, how smart the child is, with the pencils and the coloring book. You're spending $29 for a plate of spaghetti that costs 4 cents, and there they are next to you. The guy with the ponytail, he's 63, with a 30-year-old girl he met somewhere at a club. And right away, a year later, 2 years later, they have the baby, and 4 years later, ready the coloring book and the crayons in the pasta palace. And they're all set up. They